evening and welcome along to the Blues Brothers podcast, the alternative Rangers podcast. Snow is falling, Rangers rotting, no supporters are having fun. It is the season where every signing's dreadful, farewell fucked it for everyone. The money wasted, patience tested, fans are running out of cheer. January's coming, this squad needs fucking gutted. Half this lot won't last the year. Yes, as we enter the month of the birth of Christ, Rangers will need more than a resurrection to save our season. A dreadful performance at home to newly promoted Falkirk leaves us with more questions than answers. Joining me to discuss all that and more is my partner in crime, Mr. Ross Clark. Ross, how are we, mate?
I'm good, Davie. I was a bit worried there just off camera when you says this is going to be one of the intros. When you say that, I don't know whether it's my job, my relationship, my life. I don't know what's going to be on the line, David, but that one was actually quite cheerful. I'll give you that. That was nice.
Well, mate, see, to be honest with you, see in the shower earlier on, I tried singing it and I recorded myself and I thought, nah, I'm not getting on the X Factor anytime soon when it comes back. So I just thought I'll speak it and hope for the best, mate. But how are you anyway?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Once you hit 25, not much good happens in the shower, Davie. After 25, it's all downhill. Hips to break, it's a bit slippery, and it's not worth the risk once you get a certain age, mate. How are you?
Aye, I'm no bad, mate. As you can tell, obviously, I can relate to that with the wee beer and all that. The wee beer I've got, I struggle to see things in the shower these days, mate. But I'm delighted to be on with you, mate. And it's very good to see you. But we've started on a sort of funny note, mate, but things weren't funny at the weekend, were they? They were absolutely chronic. Where do you sum up where we're at now? Because the manager had hit or missed performances with the mixed bag of Europa results, the Cup semi, and then he did start off with 4 league wins back to back, but it all went very south at the weekend, didn't it?
It did. It did. And I think we spoke about it last week on here. The bigger podcasters had been alluding to the fact that XG and stats, and if that's your bag, had been alluding to this coming. But just with the basic eye test, Hibs, Butland saves a penalty in the 90th minute. Livingston go through one-on-one with Butland, who makes a good save. Should have had a penalty. So and on another day, that game finished up 3-1 Livingston. So the performances, although you can't take the 4 consecutive wins away for Rule, and that's not something that I'm trying to do by any manner of means, because under Russell Martin, I don't think we win the 4 games, but I also don't think Russell Martin was getting the luck of the draw. And it was definitely time for him to go. But what I'm finding, Davie, is I'd like Rule to be learning from his mistakes about his squad. And I think that is, I don't want to say it too much, because there's quite the furore on Twitter if you dare say anything about our new manager. But I'd like to think that players are coming to the end of their last chance saloon, which should have possibly been 2 or 3 games ago. As you know, the likes of Asgard, a player who I've said I think is a technical player, I think could be a good Rangers player in time, but he needs to cut the limelight at the moment. Aaron's at left back. If you were picking the team on Sunday, would you have picked Aaron's? Would you have picked Ant-Man on current form when you've got Finlay Curtis sitting on the bench? And I just think that he's going to have to learn quickly that it doesn't matter if you're the best in training, if when it comes to match day and you're in front of 50,000 at Ibrox, 50,000 divided by 3 and add 10, then training doesn't matter to me. It's who can get there and who can do it on a match day. So not unexpected, but still disappointing for me. Davey, what was your take on it?
I personally, I thought it was rotten, but I want to sort of touch on something that you said there, which I found very interesting, because I remember in one of his first press conference when he came in, he talked about lining up with this thing that the new sort of coaches of the modern era talk about asymmetrical shapes, essentially when one of your fullbacks is inverted and that being Aaron's, right? But what I think that's happened or has produced for us is that it's totally stagnated the left-hand side for us. You see, when you've got Aarons coming inside, or you've had Gassama out in the left, or he had Danilo last midweek out in the left, we've got everybody coming inside the pitch, and there's absolutely nothing happening there. And, you know, also, what sort of counter to that is the opposition target that side for us, and we've got a lot of players looking uncomfortable out of position at the moment. And I get sometimes it's jumpers for goalposts, and you know, you're sort of what's that other one? Square pegs, round holes when you're trying to put a team together when you've got injuries. And I understand the squad sort of depth and cover for certain positions is not there, Ross. But I don't think the manager's helped himself there. I think we saw that it wasn't really working with Aarons, you know, last Thursday, and Magoma got a good enough rest. Surely he's your only sort of available left back at the moment, and the manager never said anything about him carrying any knots. He's got to start. And I think him no starting affects the balance of the whole team, and that leads to you creating very little, because your whole team is then shaped disproportionately, and it allows the opposition to target you rather than you look to target the opposition. Do you go along with that?
Aye, but what I will say in Danny Rowe's defence on that is we've got nobody who's naturally left-sided who can go outside apart from Magoma, and what we've got is a 19-year-old kid who is trying to adapt to the pressures of life at Rangers. I would have played him at the weekend, Davie, for exactly the reason you're talking about. You've got Barami playing out there, who's always going to come in on his right. You've got Aarons playing there, who's coming in on his right. And you've got a midfield three where there's no really MD that's pulling it towards the left either. So I do think, and you noticed it towards the end of the game when they brought the sub boy on and they just kept shelling it into our left back area, and the boy was terrorising Aarons. And that to me is something that any manager worth their salt is going to notice about us. What I will say is it's a good change for them not to be targeting our right back as a big area, which is take the small wins where you can. But no, in Rowe's defence, I think he's got a bit of a juggling act there between keeping Magoma fresh and no burning out a 19-year-old kid and expecting him to be up and down the park like a prime Tavernier. So recruitment's let him down there. That's one area of the park I will say that he's not really got many tools at his disposal that are up to the standard, Davie.
No, Alan Gillies obviously talks about Ant-Man being out for the next 8 weeks is almost a blessing in disguise. And obviously, if you look at Andrew's point here in regards to the front three were diabolical, maybe slightly harsh on Bajrami. He did try. Well, no much came off for him. It was at least prodding. But I think if you look at the strikers in isolation, Ross, the number 9s that we've got to choose for, obviously big Chermiti or Chermisi, as I like to call him, played on Thursday night. Miovski comes back in at the weekend. Danilo almost plays as that hybrid link where you almost think he'd be better in a 2, but we don't play with a front 2. We play with one up and either 2 off or 2 wide, one behind. It's never really, as simple as a plain, front 2. And I think that affects Danilo, because I think he needs somebody to play off of where he can just be a penalty box striker and let somebody else do the hard yards. In terms of Miovski, he made his name as a player running off the ball, running the channels, running in behind. Most teams, especially at Ibrox, in the way they play, put more men a hint the ball than there is space available to him. Is that sort of counterintuitive, or do we have to find a way to figure that out in order to get the best out of him? Do we need to try something to draw these guys out? Is that why Asgard should maybe play higher up the pitch and just stay there, and you've got Barron and maybe Raskin or Diamandi, whoever's in there, to try and win the ball and just look to hit Asgard and just maybe leave 2 up and be a bit more brave? What is the solution in there? Because at the minute, there's no really anything coming off in a positive sense in terms of creativity and us working the opposition, is there?
Mate, we've said it before on here, the front 3 strikers you've got none of them are Rangers number 9s. None of them. Had my doubts about Miovski when we tried to sign him for Aberdeen, and as we've said on here countless times now already this season, he's not got the pace for whatever reason. It's not as if he's massively older or he's over the hill, but he's Curry knows because Curry was standing behind him. He was fourth last in the queue. He's he went in and tapped in the remainders for them. Mate, Danilo's an interesting one, isn't he? He's a player who will score you goals, but I don't feel as if he's the type of striker that's going to thrive playing up there on his own. Chamiti, as I say, I'm one of the few that does see attributes in there, but no, 8 million quid's worth of attributes. And when you come here with that price tag, people expect you to be the best player on the park. And he's not going to be that. He's not going to be that for the next. You'll probably no see the best of him for another full season. And even at that, I don't know if he's going to be worth 8 million quid. I think we need to go and get. I think we need to go and get a striker. We spoke about this last week, but who do you get, Davie? Who is available? The boy Bowie at Hibs, everybody spoke about him at the start of the season. He's tailed off a cliff. You're not going to get Shankland. Shankland's now tied up again with Hearts. So who do you get that's going to come here and guarantee you goals?
Can I ask you a question? I've just got to put it out here to be controversial for the sake of controversial sake. Would Lyndon Dykes be a better option than anything we have there now to have?
I've not watched Lyndon Dykes, mate, for years. If you're looking for that big, what we need is somebody that's going to take the ball in and hold it up and link play, which Danilo can do if you get the ball into his feet. But a lot of the time we're playing the ball up chest height and expecting a Chamiti or a Miovski with a physical presence to be backing in and holding it in and making it stick, which it isn't. So in that capacity, possibly somebody in the mould of a Dykes potentially could fit the mould. But the issue, Davie, is if you're playing a big lump up front and a one up front, you need your midfield runners to be getting ahead of them. And in our midfield three, you've got Barron sitting at the end, who is our standout midfielder. The three we bought for Aberdeen that was never going to be many more than a squad player, is the standout of the three. And you've still got Raskin and Diamande both wanting to play in the six as well. At the weekend there, it was as if we played with Raskin and Barron sitting, because Raskin was on Barron's toes the full game. Like the tail end of last season under Barry Ferguson, Raskin was breaking forward, breaking lines, scoring goals. And I know that me and Mr. Walker have a bit of back and forth on Twitter and a bit of banter, but I watched a video compilation. I watched 45 seconds of it and then I got bored earlier on, but it was showing Raskin having opportunities to break into space behind lines where he should be running to, and he's not moving. And so that to me is interesting, and for me that's where I thought Asgard would have been better, going up and linking and getting beyond the strikers, but we've not seen any of that for him either, Davie. I think Russell Martin built a team to play a certain way that folded very quickly. And what's left is a kind of mix match of players that none of them fit the way Rule wants to play, which is also an issue. But where I'll step in and what I was saying on Twitter is, rather than having a Diamande in there or rather than having an Asgard in there, why not go and play Lyle Cameron in there? Somebody who's got a good competitive goal scoring record for Dundee last year, where he scored double-figure goals for a team that finished near the bottom of the league. Why not give him a shot? He get man of the match in 2 of 3 starts for us at the start of this season, and yet he's not been seen, while other players who we've went and spent a lot of money on underperforming for the manager. And that's, to me, the news where I've got issues with Rule and his team selection and his substitutions.
No, I think you're spot on in regards to his selection, and especially his substitutions at the moment. But obviously, in regards to this, I think the point that JD makes here is the fact that, I'm sure Danny Rule answered that, and that Rothwell's just coming back for injury at the moment, so you might see him being phased back in soon enough. But you touch on a point in regards to Cameron and whether he deserves his chance. The manager said in a press conference today, pretty much along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, that players will need to do more than training, but they will get their opportunity, and when it comes, they have to be ready to take it. And perhaps the players in our squad have been guilty of not taking it, but as you already alluded to, Cameron took his chance under Martin and then picks up an injury and doesn't really get back in. But on Raskin, Ross,
before we go to Raskin, Davie, what is Asgard, Raskin, and Diamandi doing to justify their inclusion week after week?
No, it's a fair point.
So for me, if the person who's in possession of the jerseys performing 7, 8 out of 10 every week, then you need to wait on your chance. But see, if they're not performing, then you've got to give somebody else a run at it. And again, come back to Ant-Man, who's now nature's sorted that out for us. But Finlay Curtis has got 3 or 4 goals already, plus goal contributions in big European games. What's Ant-Man offered us? And yet he's in the team week after week, no performing. So for me, you've got to be a stronger manager and realise that it's not just going to flick a switch in these boys. Some of them maybe do need a bit of time to come in and adjust to the league and the way they're being asked to play, but take them out of the limelight, because at the moment, Asgard wrote in the Rangers post-match, it's not a journal, what is it called? It's a programme. It's a programme about his great-grandfather being Bill Struth's best mate, and they used to go to the Savoys and winch tens and all that, or whatever he was writing. But that was met by folk going, oh, that's just a piece to try and get the fans on side with him again. So if you take that thought channel into consideration, the fans know that they're on his back. So why not take him out for a wee while and then bring somebody else in and give them a chance? Sorry, mate, you were heading towards Raskin when I so rudely butted across you there.
No, I like that, mate. I like a wee bit of off-the-cuff stuff. That's what it's all about. And to be fair, I think you're spot on in what you're saying. But where I was going to take it on further in regards to the Raskin thing, obviously it breaks the day with the Rangers review later on this evening, saying that he's got another year in his contract. So he's contracted to the summer of 2028, as William Flint quite rightly says here. Now, we were all expecting him to be offloaded next summer at the latest for a very cut price deal. But what I'm going to say to you, mate, when is the right time to sell? Because I think we need to sell, one, because he's probably the highest asset that we've got at the club at the moment. Two, we need to regenerate this squad in great depth, and he's maybe the only person in terms of his Belgian form that will command a fee of a certain nature, and by that I mean anything over £10 million, because his domestic performances at the minute certainly not going to get you any big money than that currently. I get that people might want to take the chance in the hope that he has a good World Cup, but I don't think Rangers can afford to wait that long. As you said last week on the podcast, although we're 7 points behind or 9 points behind, whatever it is, there is a league there to be won if you do the business smartly and correctly. Why would we write off a season when you've got a chance to potentially salvage it? Should you not be looking to do your business as early as possible and sell your most lucrative asset to sort of better the team? Or do we take the chance and hope that we're going to get big money because we're just in-house wrote off the season? Where do you think the American owners are targeting with obviously the January business, and in particular Nico Raskin?
With Raskin, I think you're taking a gamble. There's got to be interest, and there's got to be interest at the amount you want to sell him. It's back to the Iggerman thing, isn't it? If you're getting a bid and it's £8 million, you've then got to ask yourself the question, what is the chances of us winning the league this season, and does Nicholas Raskin improve our chances of winning the league this season and securing automatic entry into the Champions League next year, which brings 60 million plus gate receipts plus a winning team back on the park? See, right now, is Nico Raskin, based on his domestic form, He'll go to the World Cup as part of Belgium's squad, I've got no doubt. But is he going to go there and play every game the way he's playing now? I'm not 100% convinced that he goes and plays at a World Cup and comes back and all eyes are on him and Belgium get to the quarterfinals, the semis, win the thing, and then you can go, well, he's won a World Cup, amazing, brilliant, or give them 25-30 million for the boy. But there's every other chance with the way his performances are now, David, that he doesn't even go there and play. And it's a disturbed summary. I'm going there, not really having a rest, training every day and hardly kicking a ball.
Does he deserve a place in our team now?
I don't think so. I would drop him out, based purely on what I spoke about earlier. For me, Connor Barron has been better than Raskin, and I just don't think Raskin plays the position he's being asked to play. Barron at the weekend is obviously being asked to play as the sitter, the pin that holds the kind of goes between the defence and midfield, breaks up the play, then gives it to Raskin and Diamandi. But you've got Raskin playing right on his toes the full game. So unless Danny Rule at home to Falkirk has decided that we need two sitting midfielders, then for me, Raskin's not playing the game he's been asked to play. So for me, maybe Old Firm, gone to Parkhead, Raskin, Barron, both sitting with the ability to go and break up play and get about the park and disrupt their midfield, which if you win the midfield in those games, you tend to go in and win the game. But if you're playing Falkirk at home, for me, it's one or the other. And again, based on current form and based on performances and longevity of performances and average performance, Connor Barron starts ahead of him for me, Davey. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I totally agree. The way he's playing now, I just kind of feel that he's almost playing within himself. And I think you get that when a player knows that he's got one eye out the door. And when you do a deeper dive into Nico Raskin's form, I said earlier on Twitter that I believe that he's had a 6-month purple patch under Barry Ferguson, as you alluded to when you first spoke about him tonight, in regards to, well, we're getting the best out of him. He looked more aggressive on and off the ball. You know, he was hurting opposition and he had more goal involvements as well. He had almost a creative spark under, you know, the Ferguson, Dodge, McCann regime. But you look at him now, mate, I think he's regressed. And Curry said it earlier in the comments, he's almost had a 3-month purple patch every season since he's came here. But really, what's he won? I heard them speaking on the Rangers review earlier on the day, and they said that they don't even think he was in the starting lineup when we beat Aberdeen to win the League Cup. He might have not even been quoted. So really something tangible when he's came here. What's he won? And ultimately, we're saying at Rangers, to make your name, you need to be a winner and breed that winning culture. And for me, if Raskin's been the mainstay and taking over the mantle for the old Gerrard midfield, your Davis, your Jack, your Kamara as your three mainstays, then I think if you look in terms of quality, mate, yeah, he might be in the Belgian squad now, but for me, he doesn't get in that team. The more, you know, if he was, if Nico Raskin was a member of Steven Gerrard's squad, he does not displace any of the three that I've aforementioned.
No, and is that part of it? Because for Belgium, he plays as a six. He plays as a holding midfield six to go and let their flair players play. So is he hanging about that six, even though he's been played as a more forward-thinking 8 for Rangers? Because that's where he wants to be seen to be playing, to stay in that squad. Because let's be honest, he's not going to go and play as an 8 or a 10 for Belgium, is he? So the 6 is very much sitting, breaking up play. But we've already got Barron doing that, and we're playing against a team that have got 10 guys with their arses on the 18-yard line. So we don't need you to put back there. We need you to be forward and breaking lines. So that in itself is a worry. But if I can, Davey, just highlight a good friend of the show, Andrew's comment here. This is the problem for me. Bajrami done it twice at the weekend and got through. But who else in our team is taking the ball in the centre of the park on the half turn, dribbling by a guy, and then, because see when you get by their midfield press, the defenders need to start coming out, and that's when Miovski and whoever else can move about and start displacing players. See, if we are playing the full game in front of their midfield, then their back four are never going to be disturbed. And that, to me, is a bigger issue. There's absolutely no... I nearly try to say a word there that I've got absolutely no... Dynamism. There's absolutely no dynamism. I felt like Andrew Kavanagh trying to say tirelessly there. Have you noticed that in the interviews? So I think that there's a real lack of that in that midfield three as well. I think that we're not opening up space. We're not panicking defences because it's like a game of rugby. Everything gets played in front of them, and there's never really anybody moves for a forward pass. Listen, I wouldn't encourage anybody to sit through 6 minutes and 40 of John Walker's analysis, but if you can put up with the first minute of his Twitter video for the night, you'll kind of see it and understood that. It wasn't talking about XG and how stats are these juicy, fancy things. It was actually showing you a visual of where Raskin should be based on John's knowledge of the game, which I must admit, tactically, and he knows more than me. He's been on a few SFA CPD courses. I don't know if he's mentioned the one he was on with Russell Martin, where he told us he was the second coming of Jesus Christ. But to give John his props, I enjoyed that video.
No, mate, no, that's a fair point. So I want to touch on something that we spoke about the day, but it'll lead into a wider point. But I just want your initial thoughts on Richard Gough coming out into the press and obviously saying that he'd offered these services in between us changing managers to try and sort out or assure the defence. Now, I know Gough's not been involved in management since he saved Livingston for relegation in the early 2000s before Paul Lambert took it on and got them relegated. But Big Gough, mate, I'd be more concerned about Big Gough having his boots ready, because in current form, he probably gets in a 4 giga, does he know, at 63-year-old.
I missed that story. As you know, I've been a bit all over the place today. So I've missed that. Is Big Goughy offering to come in and do a bit of advisory stuff, aye?
He simply said that he could work with the centre halves, mate, and try and bring them on. He thinks that they're very raw, especially Fernandez, and perhaps they need that experienced head to talk them through. But he says he was forthcoming and engaging with the club, but nobody got back to him. Is he just on that though? That for me is poor. I get that you might not want to use him, but you're not going to get many more legendary players of Richard Gough's status trying to engage with the club. You have to have that dialogue. That is your 9 in a row title winning captain. There's no many, guys in the modern era that will ever eclipse what he has won for the club in terms of trophy and medal haul. You cannot ignore somebody of his stature. Yes, by all means say thanks and no thanks, but you have to engage with people like that. And I think it alludes to a wider point in that you've got John Bomber Brown, the guy who's responsible for getting Carlos Quella to the club when he was a scout for Walter Smith, recommended that Rangers go and sign Jamie Vardy when he was at Fleetwood, when Ali McCoist was the manager, knows an eye for a player, knows character, can identify that when he's scouting a player, but yet spends his weekends either, commentating with Tom Commentator or in the hospitality lounges at Ibrox. Why are we no using these guys? These guys know what the club is all about. And I don't understand. For me, it speaks to a wider point that Rangers is losing its identity on the park, but it's certainly losing its identity behind the scenes as well for me, mate.
Oh, that's where I was going to go, Dave, before you put it a bit more eloquently as me. Our club has to... the fan like me and you who remember just about the tail end of the glory days of the 90s, the soul's been ripped out the club, mate. The soul has been ripped out the club. Even people like Gough, Bomber Brown, for Gough not even get a message back for the club to say, look, really appreciate the offer. If we need your assistance, we'll give you a shout. You've got people that took us on the road to Manchester, Kevin Thompson, who came in, played for the club, won things, represented as well, never talked bad about us, bring him in last year for 6 months and then don't even give him a text to say thanks very much for that, but we're not going to need you next season. It's just don't get in touch with us, we get in touch with you, and then it never comes.
Didn't even pay him when he was here either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So people have got a love of Rangers. Back to your kit man, Jim McAllister in it. You're back to the kit man, people that love the club, people that know the standards, and it seems to me as if people don't want that type of person about the club for whatever reason. Because for me, somebody in the building who's demanding that and who can imagine, I don't know, could Richard Gough and Bomber Brown come in and work with the football players of the day, mate? When Richard Gough and Bomber Brown were at Rangers and Rangers won things, it was unrecognisable to the way it is now. By the way, Aaron's spot on. I thought I really actually enjoyed the football at the weekend. I thought Maurice Ross both tactically and passionately spoke about what was going on in the park, called folk out for not working hard enough, and you just think to yourself, that's the kind of person that you would die to have on the background team. I don't know if Stevie Smith behind closed doors has got that, but it seems to be that we've took the easy decision we're at as well. But we've gave Stevie Smith, we've gave him a wee promotion while we sort this out, and it wouldn't be nice to, when there could be better people there. Now, I don't know Stevie Smith's credentials, but a right hardy bastard like a Moros or somebody like that who are not scared to tell them how it is. But we've spoke about it right back to the first podcast we had here, mate. Society's changed in a way that, see, now you can't tell people how it is because you have HR and it's not like it used to be in any walk of life, and I don't imagine football's any different.
I think you make an interesting point. I'm going to look at it for when Walter Smith left and Advocat took over. I'm pretty sure it was Bomber Brown and John McGregor that were in charge of the reserves. I want to speak about, now I'm just rhyming players off the top of my head, but as far as I can remember, for that into the Alec McLeish era, I can remember, obviously, Barry Ferguson was there when Walter Smith was there and got a couple of fleeting games in his last season when we didn't quite manage the 10 in a row. But if you look at it, since that point, you had Mo Ross and Bob Malcolm come through. You had Alan McGregor, Alan Hutton, Chris Buck, Charlie Adam, Ross McCormack. All these guys, what is it they have in common? They came through the youth system and won a league and a cup, playing for Rangers minimum. Do you know what I mean? Stevie Hughes is another one. You look at it the new in terms of the youth academy since Craig Mulholland has been in charge and now Davie McCallum is interim in charge. How many youth have we brought through in the last 10 years? Gerrard had a good look at Ross McCormack and decided, Ross McCrory, and had a look at him and thought, there's maybe a player in here. Decided, there's no, when he gave him enough games. In order to win things, we need somebody better than that. Who else has come through? Ross McCausland since then. Finlay Curtis is on the periphery this season. We signed Bailey Rice 2.5 years ago, and he's had less than 390 minutes worth of fitness since he's joined us. What is going on in the youth academy? Are we identifying the wrong players? I'm looking at physicality. I'm seeing Finlay Curtis and think, the boy's got sort of potential. But why has he not been in a gym for the last 6 months looking to bulk up, get him on a diet where it's just like pure red meat and getting him bulk out? Because he doesn't have the physicality to play in this league. We need players that breed a winning culture. Look at our rivals across the city. I hate doing it, but what did they do? They got Maloney in as a pathway manager. They had Darren O'Dea before he went to Swansea in charge of the youth. Steve McManus was in charge of the reserves. It's guys that have won things for them, knows what it's all about to win in Glasgow, and they breed that culture in. Look how many guys they've had that are still there that have won things. There's Forrest, McGregor, there's that Donovan boy coming round. Ralston, you wouldn't have him in your team, but he knows what it's all about and what it means to them. I'll add that to the guys that we signed in years gone by. Kurt Broadfoot, he's not exactly a world beater, but he knows what it means. He's a Rangers man at heart. You need players like this to take you forward, and there's none of that going on when we're identifying players for the youth team or indeed recruitment, and that's what I mean by we've lost our identity. It's a shambles. Any thoughts on that, Ross?
Aye. Listen, mate, you're never going to have a better chance to bring youth through than when we get put in the leagues. And what we did instead was signed Sandaza, Kyle, Cammy Bell, blah blah blah. And since that day forward, Aaron McCoy's had a chance to bring through a group that could have me, you, Andy, Curry. We could have probably get promoted out the third division under the name of Rangers. If you'd have put us in the team. But rather than giving boys like Kyle Hutton and all the young ones that were about that time, Fraser Aird, and we went down and overpaid all these journeymen for all over the place to come down. And since then, Alex Lowry got a shot. As you say, no physical.
Leon King again, but no good enough, mate.
A centre half. But as you say, there is a bit of that. I'm not going to tell you I know any better than a sports scientist or a personal trainer or the best of the best trainers that we've got. But I look at Liam Scales, who came into the Celtic team a big skinny drip, went to Aberdeen, came back. He is not a good player. Tony Ralston is not a good player. But over time, they've been in and out that team enough to be able to bulk up and get used to it and grow into a jersey there. Would I take any of the two of them? I wouldn't take any of their back five in our team. But they're a unit. They've played together. They've come through the youth together. We don't have it, Davie. I don't know how we fix it. But the likes of Bailey Rice, there's talk today of losing him. Is it Villa? They're talking about him going.
Aye, Sunderland have been mentioned as well, mate.
So there's definitely something about the boy if you've got Prem League teams looking to take him. And I know that some Prem League teams have got squads of 400 under 18s and they just loan them out all over the world. And if one or two of them comes good, it'll pay for itself. I get that. But I just think in this summer, you had the boy Mulligan. Mate, you had Shankland went without a club all summer, hoping that we would pick up the phone to him. And then eventually went back with his tail between his legs. A blue nose, somebody that's at Ibrox, pictured at Ibrox on European nights when his team's no playing. Somebody that cares. I'm not saying Lawrence is going to be the best, but how many players over the years have we had an opportunity to go and get and we've no took it? Because I don't know. Is it because I don't know. It's not as if they're no good enough. There you go. Hearts beat us 2-1 this season. Shank scored both goals. So you're not going to tell me these boys are no good enough, but for whatever reason we don't. Andrew's bang on. I said when we were on Not on Our Rangers podcast at this time last year, I said, and actually 2 years ago with the two of them, Watson and Cammy Devlin are two players Rangers should be interested in. And the two of them's contracts are up. The two of them signed 2-year extensions, and the two of them are now up again this summer. And mate, Cammy Devlin walks into this Rangers team, and yet folk will say to me, no, he doesn't. Mate, I've watched him for the last 3 years. Cammy Devlin walks into this Rangers team. The boy Watson offers you something a bit different. The boy Watson offers you a homegrown, fills out the Euro squad, bulks it up. A Rangers fan, a good young player, offers goals for the midfield. You would kill for that, wouldn't you? We've got Cameron, who offers goals for the midfield, knows the game, good young Scottish boy, and he can't get in the team because we don't play young Scottish football players, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world.
See, there is that snobbery associated with the club, mate. And I really don't understand it. You know, there's a guy that was in that team that you spoke about with McCoist that we let go in the third division. That was Craig Halkett. And look, he's forged a career for himself. Don't get me wrong, he's been a bit injury prone in his last few years, but you can see when he's missing for Hearts, they really suffer when he's not in the team. Again, the boy Beningame, I like he's very Kamara-like and how tidy he is on the ball. But again, his injury record's no great. But there are players that you could look at domestically that would add something, and you're no spending absolute fortunes. And I get that there is a Rangers tax that will be applied in the domestic league. Clubs don't want to sell to us, mate. But ultimately, we have to be shopping smart. I think you look at our team as well, Ross, and see when you see it lining up in that Europa League, and the camera pans across when the tune goes on, right? You see that we look physically a lot smaller. We look like an amateur team up against proper men. And that worries me why we're not identifying that in recruitment. I know we've got guys in midfield that are slight. Diomande, you look at Cameron, Raskin, they've got that low centre of gravity. They're not very big. But look throughout the team. Giga, who is maybe 6'1", 6'2", but he's very slender, mate, and he's not got any physicality. I think Manny Fernandez is of a build and a stock, but the problem is he needs coached into using his physicality. He's not used to playing that way. He doesn't know how to use his attributes. That's what I mean about Raw. But you look throughout the team, we're such a small team lacking physicality. That's a problem in our recruitment as well, because the domestic bread and butter teams bully us, don't they?
Yep, easily. And it's not about height or stature, because, again, talking about the candies, 5'8", but he's got the big. Conor Barron's not big, but he's got the big. Like, we've got players that are, as you say, physically imposing. But see when they jump and they run for a tackle, they're just not got the heart for it. Is that better?
Aye, that's it, mate. That's it back. Sorry.
My headphone was dying there. Sorry, did you hear any of that? No.
I slightly, but if you want to repeat that, mate, we're up for listening to you again.
I was just saying the likes of Cammy Devlin, he's 5'8", 5'9" max, but he's got a heart of a lion. Conor Barron, heart of a lion. So I think it's back to that as well. Can they handle the rigours of this league? Ryan Jack wasn't big, so I don't think it's physical stature, but I think that you've got to be big, brave, and have a bit of conviction and a bit of passion and a bit of fight in you. What is it they say? It's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog. There's another one for you, David. Get a wee black notebook out, we'll wait. So that's to me that's a big thing as well, and that's something that we will you can't get that looking at a data sheet. Like when Felwell spoke about we signed to a meaty based on his metrics, and I opened up an Excel spreadsheet and he was all greens compared to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and you're like, aye, but what happens when somebody's booting fuck at him for 90 minutes? Has he got the heart to give a bit back? Or does that 6 foot free frame shrink into itself? Because there's too many we've got in here. And for me, that's as big an issue, mate. But how do you get heart into players? How do you get that in? By having guys like your Bomber Browns and folk that have been there and done it before, and Tomo and it. Kevin Thompson's not the biggest boy in the world. But see if you put him in a 60-40 against Bobo Baldi or against Callum McGregor, he's going right through it. Because he's got that heart. And I feel as if a lot of the players don't have that heart now, Davie, and I don't think you can teach that. I think that's got to be a natural, that's got to be built into you. You've got to be wired up like that. And talking about Muscats and boys like that as well, they were the same. Just people that are just that don't like to lose. And I think our signing policy and going to the English Championship and getting mid-level jobbers, that's what you get. You get folk that are not used to having to win, so they don't go into that 50-50 because they don't want hurt. It doesn't mean everything to them to win that game, win that ball. How many times have we seen in a close game where Kevin Thompson goes right through, takes the ball, takes the man? If you want to look at it and say, oh, you're being very Rangers-esque, was it the boy Simunovic that put Miller up in there? And the whole crowd gets a lift when something like that happens. We don't have anybody in our team, barring Conor Barron, that gives you that, in my opinion. And I included Nicholas Raskin in that. Diamande will give away cheat fouls and barge folk when the ball's miles away and stuff like that. But we don't have enough of that nasty day to win the game streak in us, Davie, for me.
No, I completely agree, and I know you touch on Tomo and you've mentioned him a couple of times tonight, and I've got a lot of time for Kevin Thompson. I like how he talks about football, mate. Pretty much on a similar standing to what you said about Maurice Ross on commentary in the weekend. You know, they've all got that intellect where they educate you about the game as they're talking you through it. And obviously, it broke the news early this morning that Jonathan Hunter-Barrett isn't going to have anything to do with the youth academy going forward. He was going to be Kevin Thelwell's appointment, the boy coming for Wolves. He's just going to stay put, and we now have a vacancy currently in that position. Tomo's worked there before. He was the reserve coach when Gerrard was the manager. He can identify a player. He's good on the grass. He talks a good game, mate. He knows what the club's all about. He would ingrain and identify in the players coming through, if they've got the character and the mentality to take that on, is a name that I would certainly put forward for it. But the question I'm going to ask you is it probably the first thing the American owners have got right now since coming into position, that they've identified that this job can't go to the boy for Wolves, so they've done well to negotiate our way out of that?
Just bringing this up first, Davie, I can't believe Andy's 61. Every time he writes it, I squint my eyes in case I'm back on it or something, and he's wrote 16. There's absolutely no way he's 61. On the boy for Wolves, mate, again, I'm not clued up enough about Wolves and the role he done there to tell you if he's any good or not. Listening to the review and stuff, when his name was mentioned, Johnny McFarlane, I'm pretty sure, spoke about him and said that he comes with a pedigree. That's as much as I know about him. But what does worry me is if this guy has got a pedigree and we've went, oh no, you're associated with Thelwell, so we're not bringing you in, where does that leave his boy and his right-hand man in Thelwell Jr. and Purdy? Why was he allowed to give his boy a job 2 weeks before he get the bullet? Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know where that leaves us, Davie, to be honest.
No,
sorry, Davie, what's your take on it? Because you were kind of talking about it, but we started talking about it before we come on air, so I know you've got some opinions on it, so it'd be good to share them with the group.
It's probably along the lines of the wee rant that went on 10-15 minutes ago when we're talking about identity. That I think a lot of the youth academy coaches, the problem with me for it, and I get that because I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here because I'm just a punter having a beer with my mate talking about the football, about Rangers, right? So what right if I go to say anything? But what I would like for my club in a professional aspect is the guys I want there are the guys that have been there, done it, and know what it's all about. I don't want PE teachers that go and do their coaching badges and come in and are looking for a job on the side. And these are the guys that are making decisions about the boys that are going to be the future of the club. There's too many of them that have let too many ones go. Look at your brother. Your brother was let go by the youth academy. Andy Halliday was let go by the youth academy. That Greg Taylor was let away by the youth academy. Lewis Ferguson was let go from the youth academy. These are all guys that have came through in a nucleus of about a 10-year space where they've all came through maybe a couple of years behind each other, and every single one of these guys started at Rangers Boys Club and were all let go because some PE teacher didn't think they were good enough to make it through. And yet all of them have made it professionally in the top league. A couple of them have played for us. A couple of them have played against us. We've got guys in Serie A. We've got guys for that group that have got international caps. I just don't understand it. That to me means, and it might sound like an old dinosaur routine. Maybe I'm an old dinosaur, but I'll tell you what, I'm a dinosaur who grew up watching Rangers winning things when that was the way of doing things. And see, since we've scrapped that, look at where we are now. I get the youth team beat Celtic last night. Great. I'm delighted for them. But there has to be a conveyor belt of talent. The Murray Park facility, with Auchenhowie, what anybody ever wants to call it, it's been there for years. And what is the biggest transfer sale from it? The one and only at 9 million for Alan Hutton. And we've no sold anybody for maybe about 2 million other than that. We got like 500,000.
Patterson.
Right? Patterson as well. Sorry, I forgot about Patterson. But apart from that, mate, we've had two big hitters in recent times But that apart, it's failed us. And it's failed us because, for me, we've had the wrong people in these jobs. And I get that they're there and they're doing it. And Craig Mulholland maybe created a culture, and it's all his pals that are still there now, despite him going. But Davie McCallum's been at Rangers for years. You found out what Davie McCallum was all about when he took the Rangers for a game against Hibs in the semi-final. The boy didn't have a clue at this level because he had never handled the pressure. He had never managed a team properly. He spent all his days working with boys. He knows nothing about what's required for a Rangers player. He never had a playing career himself. And that is the problem with the club. In order to manifest a winning culture and a conveyor belt of talent, you need guys that have been there, done that, and worn the t-shirt and have the medals to show for it. And we're so detached from that, so far away from it, it's unbelievable.
It's hard to argue with any of your points. Even going back, you speak about, obviously the one closest to my heart, Xander, released for Rangers, but see, after he won a domestic double with St Johnstone, man of the match in 2 quarterfinals, 1 semi-final, and 2 finals, where our own Robbie McCrory was in goals in one of the finals for the R team. And when he was available on a free agent, you've got Rangers fans saying no good enough to come and play for Rangers, right? You've got Shankland, young Rangers fan, people saying no good enough to play for Rangers. Lewis Ferguson's available, young Rangers fan, he's not good enough to play for Rangers. So, see the majority of our fan base, and I have got a personal opinion on this one, because see McGregor's last season, see if Gerrard hadn't left us and we'd have signed Xander at the time there was talk of it, he would have been a better option for us than McGregor going into his last season, who was selling the knickers week in, week out. See Lewis Ferguson, he would have been better than anything we had. So we, as a fan base, we don't want to sign young Rangers fans either. The vast majority, and even Rangers fans like Lawrence Shankland, who guarantees you goals in this league, who can do what we want our strikers to do. None of our strikers can hold the ball and bring somebody in and make an intelligent run. Well, Lawrence done it against us in the 2-1 game at Ibrox, but nobody wants him because he's a Rangers fan. So we're that far as a fan base removed that we look down our nose at Rangers fans that are playing in Scotland. Johnny McFarlane the other day talking about you need a left back. Greg Taylor was available on a free. Now, am I saying that would have worked out, gone Celtic right to Rangers? No, but you had a chance to go and ask the question of somebody who's been here, done it, won it. And Celtic didn't want him to leave either, by the way. Celtic offered him a contract and he wanted to leave them. But we don't even ask the question. Now, am I saying that it worked out well for Kenny Miller? Who would have thought Kenny Miller would have come back to Rangers and thought see if you come here and you do the business, Rangers fans will support you. But as a culture of our club, a big majority of our fans don't want to see young Rangers fans coming here, and will actively promote no signing them because they're playing in Scottish football.
No, and see that type of shithousery. The way I played it, the late great Walter Smith, he'd still been manager, and that signing was available to go and make that. And the example of Greg Taylor, as you alluded to, Walter Smith's asking the question, and that's what I mean. There's that the identity about the club. That's what's missing. There's nobody that's willing to put their head above the parapet, and by that I mean his personality, mate. Personality is lacking throughout the club. That's how Patrick Stewart would never have survived as the CEO, because he looked and acted like a wee mute creep. It doesn't work at Rangers. You have to be all-encompassing in terms of a figure when you have these hierarchy roles, and engage with the fan base and engage with the media, and sort of bring that upon yourself that you're there to be shot at, and there's just not enough of that within the club. We're very weak and passive, both on and off the park at the minute. Do you go along with that?
Yep. Dougie makes a good point there as well. Ali McCann, young boy, Northern Ireland, I believe he's a Northern Ireland international. I think he's got caps.
Aye, he has, aye.
Came out of that St Johnstone team. I had arguments with folk when I was on the Rabble. We're talking way back to the Rabble, and the reason I know is because when Xander scored after being man of the match against us in the quarter or the semi-quarter final at Ibrox when he came up and scored. That was when Martin kind of asked me if I wanted to go on the Rabo and talk, and that's how I started coming about the podcast. So even back to that time, see the boy Jason Kerr that played centre half for them and won. He's not affiliated to Rangers by any means. He could have done a job for us at that time. People that had went and won trophies for us in our league, had beat us to trophies, had performed admirably against us to put us out the cup, and we weren't interested because they've came for Scottish football. And you're seeing the same now, where whenever you mention Academy Devlin, never be good enough. Mate, folk in the summer were saying they wouldn't have took Josh Windass back on a free because he'd been here and he's crap and he's this and he's that. Mate, I don't understand some Rangers fans and the contempt we've got against people who've got a background or a history or a feeling with the club.
See, just on the Josh Windass point, I don't know if you've caught up with open goal today, but obviously Andy Halliday alluded to that he's seen one player get it for Gerrard and get it tight, and he wasn't at the club long after it. And Andy Halliday said he was a big hitter. I kind of think it's Josh Windass, but I don't know what you think. He said he was swiftly booted out after Gerrard went from when he spoke back to Gerrard in the dressing room. Just off the top of your head, mate, you any idea who you think it might be? Maybe either him or Big Lafferty at the time?
Possibly. If you listen to, I think Gerrard's own record speaking is saying he didn't want Windass to leave. He didn't want Windass to leave, but Windass at that time, let's be honest, it was what I would call a daft young boy, like a prodigy, who's now grew up and done really well in English football and was available on a free and we never took him. But at that point, I think he was a bit gallus, which to me, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. My headphones are dying, mate. That's how I'm scrambling there, by the way, just in case my audio goes again.
No worries. So I'll round up with this one, mate. We've got Dundee United and Kilmarnock away this week. Dundee United tomorrow night, Kilmarnock away at the weekend. Two notoriously tough fixtures for us domestically in recent times. How do you see it going, mate? And what can we do to impose ourselves on this? Because I know Kilmarnock's not having the best time yet, but Jim Goodwin's team will be up for the tomorrow night's game, and they've got players in positions that can hurt us in an attacking sense for them and defensively for us. So what can we do to get it right on the park?
I think we've got to change it up again. I think we've alluded to some of that stuff where we need natural width. We need somebody who's going to give us a bit of width. Now that Ant-Man's missing, I think that'll help us. I think he's hamstrung us by rather than going down the line. When you've got a Miovski or a Cherniti in the middle who you would imagine by their size and shape are going to thrive on crosses in. Every time Ant-Man's picked the ball up, he's ran into blind alleys, which is frustrated. For me, McGowan's got to come back in. Lyle Cameron has got to play. You've got to give him his chance. Finlay Curtis has got to play. You've got to give these young, hungry guys a chance when your more established big money signings are not doing it. My worry is, does it drastically improve that you then go and start actually creating 3 or 4 chances and maybe win a game 3 or 4 nothing, Davie? Because we're not even creating a chance a game. Gone by, and again, I don't like stats. I would rather say we never created enough chances to score a goal. But Josh Barry was saying the other day, a wee 0.84 for XG. So that we're not even creating enough chances to expect to score 1 goal again now. And our expected goals against are like 0.73. So we don't, for every one we look like scoring, we look like conceding one. And I just don't know how we turn that around. I'd like to see Danny Rowe be a bit bolder, make the decisions. I would like to go to pick a starting 11 and maybe 10 fans you asked to pick a starting 11. I would imagine they would all be similar. You would have McGoma in there, maybe you would have Curtis in there. I want Danny Rowe to start picking the best players he's got available rather than the ones that he plays just because he plays them every week.
No, I agree with that, mate. And I think we're in for a tough week. But just before we finish up, I want to give a reminder to everybody that follows us and subscribes on YouTube, everybody that likes, shares, and subscribes, follow us on X, that next week we'll have the draw for the competition to win tickets to see. It's a pair of tickets, so that's 2 tickets to see the live pod on the 9th of January, which is between Heart and Hand, Four Lads, and CJ Novo. Me and you'll be going there for a wee swally, mate, so you'll get to see our part there. You know, we'll buy you a beer, you buy us a beer. What's for us? It should be a good night, mate, and it'll be good to mix and mingle with the folk that we know for podcast world, eh?
Mate, I'm really looking forward to it, and it's probably something that we've no done enough, Davie, is asking that if you're watching, if you enjoy it, give the pod a wee like or subscribe to us, and it just kind of helps us. Obviously, we're very new. We're not exactly the best podcasters in the world, but we're trying our best to give people a wee flavour of what we are thinking. We're trying to do something a wee bit out the box. The numbers have been kind of up and down, but you've got we're regular punters that are coming and joining us every week. So if they could maybe subscribe, like, I would encourage everybody to interact with the podcast as well. Get comments in, give us talking points, because me and you could rattle on a lot of shite for as long as possible. And I always think it's better to have the people that are watching the pod bring, because sometimes their input's better than ours, David. But no, it'll be good to go and meet people. Obviously took part in the Not Our Rangers podcast live show earlier on in the year, and met some of the people that come and that watch that pod, and who knows for there. So hopefully some of them we'll see at the live show for Edgar, Clifford, and CJ Novo back with another brand new video. So I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good night. The 3 reporters that I actively listen to, and me and you look as if we've got a great head of hair at that as well. So that's the most important bit for me. We'll not look ugly, put it that way.
Well, I don't know if I have got a good head of hair, mate. Underneath this hat, there is more tram lines than there is in Blackpool Promenade, mate. So on that note, Ross, I've really enjoyed your company as I always do, mate. Thanks very much for joining us. And it's good night from him, folks. And it's good night from me. Good night.